Hi, this is Vicki Hyman with NJ Advanced Media. I'm here with John Shabe and Anthony Venutolo to discuss last night's episode of True Detective, which I have to say, it started off not so great for me with one of these. I was not a big fan of Rust Cole's monologues from last season, and we had another one, this very sort of pretentious monologue, existential, delivered by Vince Vaughn's Frank in bed looking at a water patch in the ceiling, but it ended really well and totally now has me on board for the rest of the season. What did you guys think?
So raise your hand if you think Ray's dead.
Well,
You think so?
well, I've seen the third episode, so.
So you know that he's. So I first thought that probably was, but now I'm doubting it after looking at trailers that sort of show him in other scenes.
This was a double-gauge shotgun. He took it to the gut and the chest.
He could have been wearing a vest.
He could have been.
His pellets.
He could have been, and I'm still hoping, even though you probably just spoiled it for everyone.
I also think the Raven mask and shotgun is this Halloween's new top costume.
It has
Oh,
to be, right?
awesome.
Yes. Yes. What were you going to say?
I've spoken with Vicki about this. The doom and gloom I have a problem with. Normally I don't, but it seems
Well, you say it's dreary, and I just say it's dark. I don't find it dreary.
It's completely dreary. Everyone's always looking out a window or staring into space, just speaking in monologues.
Did you have a problem with it last season?
I didn't, but it was a Southern Gothic thing, and it fit the mood, I think. I think here...
LA Film Noir doesn't...
No.
By way of The Wire?
It feels contrived. It feels, every time I see a cityscape or a shot of the city, of the highways, I feel like they're trying to create this Gotham City-like vibe. And that very well may be there, but it just comes across as ridiculously contrived. I still like the show, but it just feels like they are really trying here.
Yeah, it's a great line this morning that somebody wrote, like, call me the first time someone on True Detective actually smiles. Like, I thought, I haven't seen a smile this whole season. You'd never
That's
seen
not
it.
what the show is about. It's
I
about the
know.
darkness that
But
lives
that's-
inside of us.
I
Why
agree.
should they
Of
be
course.
smiling? Although everybody must have smiled when Colin Farrell's Ray Valcoro said, called himself a feminist because he has body image
Right.
issues. So that's like one of the
Very
funniest
funny.
things I've heard all year.
It was very sly. That was a great line.
So I brought up The Wire just now. It's very interesting. They're talking about the history of Vinci in this episode, and we learn about the EPA wants to crack down on the toxic waste that's out there. The government thinks that they're all corrupt, and it was one of the things that didn't quite grab me about this particular season, that we're going to have this sort of like high-speed rail line development. It doesn't sound very
It puts me to sleep.
interesting.
It puts me to
kind of
sleep.
does, but you mix it with all the sex stuff, and there's a lot of sex stuff apparently.
It just still puts me to sleep. Kind of like the way all that trade stuff in Star Wars did in the first 3 episodes.
Yes, exactly.
I don't care. I don't care. And plus, it's kind of convoluted. I mean, I never felt The Wire was convoluted. It
But
was.
it was.
You had to.
You had to like sit there and watch it with other people. It was like, who's that guy again?
Right.
And
Yeah,
what-
but in The Wire, not to get too far off True Detective, but in The Wire, everything was fairly realistic. Like you know,
Right.
you're talking about drug use, you're talking about gun crime. It's something a lot of people.
You don't
can
think this is
understand.
realistic? It's
Well, it
actually
is,
based
but
on
it's-
like the bad doings in like
No, I'm saying it's a
California town.
different. It's a different type of thing. It's a little. I would say it's more complex than The Wire. I love both shows, but I think you're talking about this has the sense of ritualistic killing and the occult. The Wire, people were pretty much getting killed, the good old-fashioned way. So anyway,
Well, how do you guys feel about Vince Vaughn?
well, he had a bad episode last night, and I thought,
Yeah.
that speech got kind of hackneyed, although it was pretty scary when he was talking about it. But, he had some lines in there like, does anyone come in here looking for, young trim? I mean, like, who talks like that? in
Nobody
real
talks
life?
like that, and also when he delivers these existential rants, it just the way he speaks doesn't fit it.
John brought up a good point. These small pieces of dialogue in last week's episode and last night's episode sometimes come across as so screenwriting 101 that I cringe when I hear some of these lines. And I would like to think that they know
I would
better.
argue that some of the lines were equally cringeworthy last season with Matthew McConaughey, but Matthew McConaughey can deliver them, and I don't think Vince Vaughn can deliver these lines.
I mean, I'm pulling for Vince Vaughn. I always thought he had some dramatic chops. I mean, when he first came up more as a dramatic leading man, and then he became like the schlubby everyman that we all know him as. But
Maybe he'll go to the screen and to say Vegas baby at some point. That's what I'm waiting
Could you
for.
imagine?
Yeah. So back to the show.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Paul,
Yeah.
played by Taylor
Yeah.
Kitsch. We learned a little bit more about him this week. We met his mother, played by Lolita Davidovich.
Yes.
What is going on there? Well, we all know what's going on there.
Wow.
Something odd is going on there. I'm not sure what it is. John.
Hello, psychosexual issues. Oh my God! And then her fascination with Clint Eastwood. She had a framed picture of Clint, and you know the way she keeps like rubbing his back. I'm like, oh my God.
There was a movie playing in the background, and I wanted to go and find out what it was. Probably a Clint movie. She wanted to watch a Clint movie.
She wanted to watch a Clint movie. I thought it was very interesting. There has been some discussion online as to whether or not Paul is gay.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, and you know, there's so much mixed up in that, and you're trying to pull out the whole thing with Black Mountain. You know, he said, "Don't talk about Black Mountain."
The desert.
You know? Yeah, and the desert. Don't bring up the desert. So.
Yeah, but very interesting stuff going on there. So a lot of Paul's issues seem to relate to his childhood. We learned a little bit more about Annie's childhood. We learned the bulk of it last episode. Last night we met Dr. Pitlore, who was played by
Rick Springfield.
Was that Rick Springfield?
Yes, Jesse's girl. That was awesome.
That was Rick Springfield.
I have to rewatch that scene.
Who apparently knew Annie's father back in the 70s or
Right.
80s. And, you know, when I talk about True Detective as an anthology, you look at what links the different seasons to each other. And I always think that it's not so much about the crime itself, but about the dark people who find themselves by necessity looking into the darkness and becoming investigators. And Annie said something very interesting where she was talking about how it wasn't a really good place to grow up. You know, 5 kids grew up there, 2 were in jail, 2 are drug addicts or something.
Killed themselves, or 2 were in
2
jail.
suicide, yeah. And the 5th, she became a detective.
Right.
And I think that's sort of like, you know, that's what I think the show is about right there.
You know, you just blew my mind with that whole Rick Springfield.
I'm sorry.
That was amazing. Is he based on a real guy? It looks like he was so...
Well, I think where he's at is kind of based on Ojai, which is this very, you know, sort of hippie, commune-like area north of Los Angeles, which is kind of like exact opposite of what Vinci is.
Right.
You know, self-help, you know.
I was recently vacationing with some California people, and I asked them about Vinci, not knowing it was a fictitious city. What did I know?
It's based on Vernon, I think.
Yeah, it's based on a real city, a den of iniquity. So anybody want to bring up anything else before we close out?
No, I mean, I also thought it was interesting when when Ray and Frank are standing there and those kids are swimming in the dirty water and he yells in Spanish, you know, danger, this is dangerous, get out of there. And I thought that was, you know,
A metaphor?
Yeah, metaphor probably. Probably a lot of metaphors, and I definitely need to rewatch to pick up a lot of the signals that we're seeing.
So you think he's not dead, and you think he's dead?
I'm suspecting he's dead.
All right,
Okay.
I'm going with not dead, and we're gonna stick with that too.
Only the shadow knows. So we'll find out next week. Thanks for joining us, and we may be back next week to discuss what exactly happened to Colin Farrell's character. Thanks for joining us.